So the best of 5 finals. Another TvP, another Clem versus MaxPax. This happens a lot. In the last 5 best of 5 finals of the Open Cup, am I saying that correctly? 4. In the last 4. Clem won 3, lost 1. They have played a lot in the finals. Last time they played in general was a best of 3 for the Champions Cup qualifier, which Clem did win. So Clem is still favored against MaxPax of the last... Wow, they play a lot, damn. In the last month. They played so much in the last month. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's like 10 games in 1 month. 10 series, sorry. 10 series. And it does, if you look at their entire history for the year of 2023, it does go back and forth. MaxPax won 5, Clem will win 2, MaxPax wins 2, Clem wins 5. Like, yeah, pretty back and forth. The last time they played, which was last week, it ended in a MaxPax victory. MaxPax 3-1. I don't actually remember those games. Sometimes I do. This time I do not. Did I cast them? Was I still in Europe? Was I on an airplane? Yeah. Yes, I was on an airplane. So is why I do not remember it. Makes sense. I did cast, I believe, the 3-0 that Clem did. But yeah, I don't know what happened to MaxPax 3-1. But I can guess... That's all I can do. I can guess that MaxPax basically did the things that he does, build order wise. No surprises there. 4 gates and DTs and a couple of Colossus Phoenix. Because he certainly has been incorporating more of that into his play. And then Clem, not by being shocked by what he was doing, simply was caught off guard by the actions taken with the build, right? So I'm trying to say that MaxPax isn't some, like, you know, taking 2 gold bases on a map behind the mineral line type of Protoss player. He mostly does the same builds, but his decision-making can still be surprising, and his execution is considered the best, actually, particularly for the 4-gate. So I'm sure there's a lot of run-bys as well that caught Clem just the littlest bit off guard, that snowballed. Like, that seems to be the way that these two play out. If Clem wins, it is because he has shored up his defenses against run-bys and responds to the scouts that he gets. You know, it's like, it sounds very basic, but obviously there's a lot more to it. Cute cam. Being cute. Cutie cam. Alright, so the Reaper gets in. It's going to see the Twilight Council. And when you see a Twilight Council and name MaxPax on the buildings, you know it is probably a 4-gate. Probably. 90% of the time, I would guess it is a 4-gate. And what do we have? 2 gateways done? 2 gateways building. I did it. Math. Amazing. You like it? So Clem should be defending that. He's going to still go for a Widowmine drop, but only 1 Widowmine. Instead, emphasizing the tech lab on the factory to start building up his tank count. So if he could get 2 tanks before the 4-gate arrives, excellent. If he can get to like 1.75 tanks, you know, almost out, that's also pretty fine, as he'll buy some time with bunkers, and he is going to get a 2nd bunker as well. The order of operations for both of these guys are pretty set out. MaxPax almost assumes he's going to be scouted because it does seem inevitable a lot of the time. All you have to do is scout a Twilight Council against this guy, and you know it's a 4-gate. And then Clem knows how to defend against what he scouted. And there's very few interruptions. There's very few differences. You know, there's not a whole lot of action prior to this point of the game in which 10 Adepts have killed 20 Marines. And like, no, this is pretty basic. But the 4-gate execution, in terms of the micro of it, can be quite intimidating. MaxPax is definitely good at seeing a weakness and exploiting it with this build. And then his ability to read when to back off and when to dedicate is also kind of unmatched. It's not perfect, he doesn't do it right every single time, but I do believe it's unmatched from the other top Protoss players. That's an empty bunker. You still want to kill it, of course. This bunker's been firing away. Clem can't really move a lot of the army down to respond, right? Because he doesn't have a lot of army. And now we got the second tank out. It's going to try and siege up, protected by a decent number of Marines. MaxPax will not jump on top of that. That would be unwise. The Stalkers will actually just evacuate. So that wasn't a lot of headway, to be honest. That bunker really did its job. Clem, very comfortable, up 4 workers. Now as a second tank to help out his tank on the low grounds. Oh, actually, he actually just made 2 tanks. So this is a little bold, but if he realized that MaxPax wasn't really going to dedicate to the aggression, he might be rewarded for it. However, it looks like Clem was just basically too greedy. He didn't get a 3rd tank. And so he loses his combat shields. Fortunately, it was combat shields, the faster upgrade of the 2. But still, that really does go down to him having his second tank join forces at the natural as opposed to being a little spread out. So at least gets that one shot and makes the Blink Stalkers at least a little punished for going after the tech lab. But Clem wanted to read the follow-up perfectly, I think is what's happening, right? Because that's usually what trips him up. The 4-gate itself is so done. It's the same game up until minute 5.5 or whatever it is for these guys in so many of their series. But then the follow-up is different. The what am I do damage? The auto turrets do damage? Does the Protoss player go into a faster 3rd base or a later 3rd base? Do they warp in Stalkers? Do they not warp in? Do they go for the Stalker harassment in the SCVs? Do they not? Like, that's what's really different. And so when MaxPax decides, you know what, I'm not going to be able to do anything here, I'm just going to back off and macro, Clem has been caught in the trap of over-defending. Not pushing out when he should, or when he does push out, he gets, you know, Zealot run by and it's all gone to shit. So tanks don't necessarily do all that well when it gets to be more of a heated, action-packed PvT, moving across the map, looking to engage someone who's building nothing but charge lots. Widow mines do better. So the faster you get to those widow mines, the better your counterattack after the 4-gate is going to be. So I think that's what Clem was trying to do. But now he's got to wait a little bit longer for combat shields to finish. Still a very solid defensive setup. I'm expecting Clem to move out momentarily. His auditor does damage. His widow mines did pop off, not super effectively. And there's the move out. So the Stalkers need to buy that time. More charge lots need to be warped in, and a Colossus would love to be on the field to support, but MaxPax, this is the most terrifying moment for him. His 4-gate did not do a lot of damage. And the Terran player has now been unleashed, upgrades and all. Warp Prism in the main base is a complete not surprise, and it is gunned down by a perfect amount of units from Clem. Excellent right there. However, that means that they're not on the front lines. The Widow Mines do pop off on the Zealots, but the Zealots were a little split, and the Zealots are what is easy to replace. 100 minerals will pop, they're relatively cheap, but more reinforcements coming through here as Clem could also maybe bring these army units. And with the tank now anchoring this push, the 4th base still could be in a little bit of trouble. Raven still doing damage too, which means it's not helping on the main attack. So I think this Colossus might do the trick. Medevac actually got pulled back incorrectly. Just a couple of Zealots, just a couple. Just to make sure that Clem never is allowed to just fully send his army across the map, his reinforcements across the map, anything to be annoying. Clem still holds on to a decent army supply lead, but the economy is now looking okay for MaxPax. It was in the gutter just a minute and a half ago. Still a very large Terran army to walk into if they're going to get a concave. Now, as far as the Terran army walking into 2 Colossus through a choke, that's not great for Terran. And this choke really does, you know, whoever walks through it loses, is usually the case. Upgrades very, very even, in fact. Ghost Academy on the way. 4th CC for Clem as well, as he's finally saturated his minerals on his 3rd base. No gases on that yet, because he doesn't quite need them. Wants to really pressure this, but it's not really working out. MaxPax has successfully defended his transition to Colossus and his 4th base, now researching Extend Thermal Lance, something he had to forego just to get the bodies on the field. The Zealot run-bys will continue until morale improves. Which it never will, because Zealot run-bys are terrible. The only thing more annoying than Zealot run-bys... DT run-bys. Which usually MaxPax gets Dark Shrine off of 4 bases, but he's played a couple of games in the last few months in which he has never gotten a Dark Shrine. Which I find very surprising, because to me, MaxPax and Dark Templar still actually are not synonymous, but they're well liked by him. Gonna be trying to get up to Perfect Army, the Perfect Army. So MaxPax... yeah, it gets up to 3 Colossus, but we're going to be quickly moving into, I think, Stalker Disruptor. And the upgrades are going to favor Clem soon. Oh, wait, no. Well, they eventually. There is a Second Forge. Second Forge should be working soon. There should be a Second Forge. The Protoss should get ahead on upgrades. I'm just still seeing no second upgrade. But I don't see a second upgrade for Clem either, so... they both are forgetting or temporarily not getting their armor. There we go. Clem's grabbing a 4th base. Just trying to match each other's movements. As this game does indeed head into the late game TvP. Second starport's on the way. Got ship weapons too, so we're moving on into, hopefully for Clem, +2 ship weapons for the Liberators. Planetary is up. Coming up, actually, additional command centers too. MaxPax 5th base, Dark Shrine in this game, thank goodness. Oh my god, that was a big shot. Holy shit. Wowzers, that's a lot of blood. That's carcasses right there. I don't know what Clem was thinking, but he just ran head first into a Disruptor. And he's figuring, well, maybe I can still get something from it. I don't think that's actually the case. A couple of force fields interrupts. Colossus actually lived with the Vikings chasing after them. And that was just a straight up loss for Clem. As he gets bodied by a Disruptor, classic. Maybe distracted back at home or something, I'm not sure. The distraction is here now. The bunker is being repaired, but the tank is actually doing too much friendly fire, I think was the problem. Ha, whoops. Maybe the tank and the mineral line's not the best thing ever. MaxPax, having successfully defended the potential attack, is now back at it on the map. He knows that he's actually the one that probably has the map control, unless Clem has a really good concave. So the sooner that MaxPax can get on his side of the map and start abusing some of Clem's own chokes, the better it is for him. Moving up into this concave of Bio might be a little bit too tough of an ask, and now the tank is looking really great, actually. It wasn't particularly helpful for the harassment, but helps against the main army. Disruptor count at 5, so I know there's a couple more shots left over. Clem is chasing once again, perhaps into the face of a ball. The balls, the balls, the balls, the balls. All right, one good ball. The Vikings have been damaging the Colossus this entire time, but even if the Colossus were all to fall, it's not really the biggest of deals. They've kind of done their job. They're almost a temporary measure for the Protoss to survive the early mid-game, or let's say the mid-game to the late mid-game. That was hard to figure out. And then you go into Stalker Disruptor. So the Vikings killing them isn't even the biggest of issues, but if Clem has to focus on that as well as focus on the Gateway Army and the Disruptors, well, then that's fantastic. That's great. Clem would like to only focus in certain locations, you know, one location at a time ideally, and that's where Liberators really help out as MaxPax adds on more harassing units such as DTs with Blink. Clem will be forced to engage and respond in multiple directions, into the main, into his 4th, into his 5th, into his 3rd, oh my, and then Liberators could easily handle that. If he has them. Bio does not. And Clem does not have Liberators, not yet anyways. He's got 2, but they're sieging up on the 5th base. He knows that another attack could be imminent. So he's trying to prepare for that, but it's actually just this attack. Another Disruptor hits Clem. Not quite in the heart of the army, very close to it. Last second split tries to mitigate the damage, but Clem's supply is a bit in the gutter here. He's gonna have to land those Vikings. Why not, right? Not much else to do. He's gonna lift his 3rd CC and try to survive, but the game is over. GG. Clem taps out, and MaxPax with the balls gets the victory. I mean, it was a close game. The ball wasn't the only thing that made Clem lose that game, but still dealing with some sickness. But I was saying that Clem was unable to do the damage on the counter after the 4 gate that I think he would have really hoped for. If you find a Protoss player failing to do damage with the 4-gate and then not successfully transitioning, not making the right moves, buying enough time, taking the right risks to go into the post 4-gate Protoss play. Like, that could be very easy games. That was some of the original MaxPax games 2 years ago or something, where he would 4-gate, and initially, when the 4-gate was considered just kind of be a thing, like everyone was doing it all the time, it was fine. And then Terrans did figure it out. So then MaxPax experienced a tremendous loss of skill, not the right word, but he started experiencing a lot more losses in PvT, to the point where I really started to criticize him for playing 4-gate all the time, because there was definitely a period of 6+ months where PvT was his absolute worst matchup, and it was because, in my opinion, he was doing the same thing over and over again. But even while I criticized it, I did have the caveat pretty much any time, where I said, but the thing is that MaxPax does this. This is actually how MaxPax plays. I don't know if he's actually a naturally talented kid at the game. There certainly is some talent to be as good as he is at such a young age. But to me, he actually just seems like the guy who literally, like, it's the Bruce Lee thing, right? Like, I fear a person who has practiced one kick 1,000 times and 1,000 kicks one time, or punches, whatever it was. Like, that is MaxPax. So it did seem like if it was someone who's going to prove that the 4-gate was something that you could do over and over again as a macro build, it would be MaxPax who proved it, and he kind of has. As he did win that last game, despite not really doing a lot of damage with the 4-gate. But Clem will, of course, occasionally get that right move out to kill MaxPax, or MaxPax will occasionally not do the right order. Not pull back when he should, push when he should, macro when he should, you know. And there occasionally are some very, very simple games between the two that end very abruptly, but that was not it. Clem did not get the damage done, went into a macro game, got some unfavorable trades elsewhere, got caught into the late game PvT, in which MaxPax was able to bully him, and he was then unable to make his successful transition over into Liberators, because that would have been the play after Clem had lost the map control. The big fight did not go his way after the Disruptor Ball. And the Disruptor Ball was pretty bad. But hey, we got the Proxy Gateway coming down. I forgot about this one. MaxPax has, I guess, 4 builds now, actually. So he's got a 4-gate, he's got his DT Rush, he's got typical Colossus Phoenix play, and he does have his 3-gate opener into Blink, right? I know that's actually that's a decent amount, right? That's more builds than a best of 3 needs, right? It used to be that he had 2 builds, literally 4-gate and DTs. But anyways, he does have this one now, and this one is very interesting because, again, initially I was like, does this really make a lot of sense? But you see it in action, and it certainly seems fun, and it can be effective. So Clem, he gets in with the Reaper, right? And he scouts no technology, but that could just be because he didn't get deep enough. He doesn't know. But he is trying to probably think of what the possibilities are for MaxPax. Doesn't need to think for too long, as he actually just scouts the Proxy Gateway, but he had already gone for a high ground command center, so it looks like he was already suspicious of something like this happening, or he just does this default against MaxPax 50% of the time, just to make sure that they can't get the victory with this type of build against a low ground command center. That low ground command center would be in trouble, it would be burning. Might not be finished, actually, if it was on the low ground. Now, on the high ground, Clem has a real chance to survive, but it's the question of how much damage does he take. Despite having the high ground command center, he didn't actually have a lot of other defenses against this early gateway push. Wouldn't mind did kill 1 probe by the looks of it. Or a couple of probes, maybe. The Stalkers are in the main base, and that means problems for Clem. 1 tank will siege up, but is 1 tank enough to protect all of his production? No, not quite. Almost, but not quite. Supply depots go down, a reactor could go down, and that I think might be targeted next. Now, MaxPax's not gonna try and go for it, so the reactor stays alive, and Clem will once again have control of the high grounds. But this is a lot of damage for Clem to take. MaxPax can be pretty happy about this. 12-worker lead from MaxPax as he does move over into Blink. That is a late Blink, of course, but he will eventually have it, and he does love to stay around for as long as possible. So some other guys, especially worse Protosses, would be leaving at this point, figuring, okay, I can't do very much more. And that's a lot of breathing room for the Terran. A lot of people who are worse than MaxPax would just be pulling back because they know that they can't micro and macro at the same time. But you know what? MaxPax can. So he stays as long as possible. Just a little bit more damage on the command center. And speaking of all the micro here, wouldn't mind trying to deny the mining time as long as possible. It's kind of effective. Blink is finally done. MaxPax could head into the main base if he has a hallucination. No, he is getting an observer though. Oh, the depth shade. Oh, there you go, there you go. I was thinking of all the ways he could get into the main base, damn it. But this actually is not for the blink into the main base, it was for the tank shot. However, there were multiple tanks, 2 tanks involved in the kind of main fight, if you will. 3rd tank on the back lines helping against the Adept. MaxPax's attack wasn't as effective as he was looking for, I think. If there wasn't the 2nd tank, that Adept tanking a tank shot would have been really good. I need a thesaurus, guys. I need different words for tank. Charge is on the way alongside Templar Archive. Someone earlier was asking, you know, does he ever go into Templar Archive instead of Colossus? And I said, yeah, he does occasionally, but it is difficult. Like, generally, StarCraft 2 is difficult. Okay, sure. But High Templars certainly feel difficult, more difficult than Colossus. Literally, they are more micro-intensive. So it's just like a fact. They are more difficult to use. But they do have more mobility if you are willing to have all the micro necessary, right? Like, if you are willing to give it a college try, get those High Templars in a Warp Prism and ferry them around. They are very mobile and more effective splash than Colossus if they hit the heart of the army. Kind of a high-risk, high-reward scenario to a degree. But we have seen Protosses play this very well. I think Showtime was really liking this for a couple of months. So I'm going to a lot of follow-up Storm. But someone else pointed out that the transition over into Disruptors as we head into the later stages of PvT is also easier off of the Colossus play, which is definitely true. It was a good point. So that's kind of the 2 problems with Storm, right? 1, do you actually get the shots? Do you actually control correctly? 2, do you transition out of Storm appropriately once the Terran player has the means of... Huh. That's weird. Has the means of EMPs. Okay, I guess I'm just out of this game. But the stream's definitely not going down, right? That's very odd. Well, that sucks. That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if BattleNet crashed.
Ready. MaxPax is ready. StatFast leaves. I ain't leaving. Should I on pause? Oh. This is actually countdown. I start. You do? Okay. 3, 2, 1, go, guys. Thanks, Siege Up. Storms are ready. Here we go, baby. It's an important moment here in the grand finals. Will it be 1-1 or is it going to be a 2-0? The game does not have to end here, but there's honestly a good chance it does. We have a Warp Prism. 3 High Templars inside of this Warp Prism, a couple of Marines and Marauders making their way into the natural. MaxPax
seems like I got the log back in.
MaxPax, careful. Storm's not bad. Storm's pretty good. Warp Prism does die. No, way too much Terran survives. That is way.
Looks like Clem's gonna win.
That just survived there. There is a battery overcharge. We don't need to fight that, Clem. I'll say let the Medivacs do their thing. If you heal up your bio right now, you win. You heal up the bio, you win. What a beautiful concave by Clem. Beautiful position on the High Templars. Excuse me, on the Widow Mines to come down the High Templars. One of the tanks did get picked off, and even the second one is very low on HP. But there is still so much Terran. And I think we're all out of Storms.
Yeah.
Everybody, don't call me out just yet. Alright, Prince. If you do not want me to count you out, I won't. But I just kind of feel that his army sucks here. Clem has +1 as well, working on +1 armor. The Archons, they have T-Rex arms, guys. And if you have a T-Rex arm, you can really get in range. You can barely eat Doritos.
You can see how close this actually was, despite Clem having a 60 supply lead. Or not 60, it was 40 arms played, I think. But anyways, we can say that this game is over. We know that it ends, so it's 1-1. And hopefully Europe will treat us better going forward. Racist. Okay, game number 3. Bottom left MaxPax, top right Clem. In case you did not follow what happened right there and you just skipped ahead. Yes, Clem did win game for 2. MaxPax was trying to make a transition over into High Templars, but he was still working on Storm by the time Clem arrived at his base, which means he didn't get any time to maneuver with his Warp Prism and try to, like, catch Clem moving across the map. And then he just didn't have enough army power to actually take down Clem's army. But despite being such a significant army gap, if you saw on Roddy's stream, there was actually a lot of, there was a lot of reasons you could watch that battle and say, like, oh, this actually isn't that different. Like, if there were a couple more storms, at least one more storm, or a couple more zealots, whatever it was, this might have been something where MaxPax actually holds. I couldn't get a clear shot of what was actually going on with everything that was happening either. I just know that from previous games where similar things have happened, MaxPax dives towards the High Templars to cover his ass after an aggressive opener. He actually has made that happen fine, in fact. So, I imagine it was something like that, where it was a few different things, and suddenly MaxPax is still in the game. But without those things, whatever they were, MaxPax, dies pretty drastically, like quickly, It's just like, oh, okay, he's definitely dead. But yeah, Battle.net just kicked all the Americans out for some reason. Didn't like us. And now we're back, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. I don't think our dropout timing actually impacted how the battle went, by the way, because just, again, MaxPax was literally waiting on Storm when we all lagged out. But yeah, game for 3, all tied up. MaxPax tried his proxy 3 gates, and it did some damage. And then to make the transfer over into Storm in time, with Clem marching down the middle of the map, it is tough. That's the type of games that MaxPax plays, the very aggressive openers, 7 times out of 10, because he has been throwing in some robo builds. But the aggressive openers into the very tightrope walk transition into the mid-game, into the late game. What we got here? We got Clem going for a good old-fashioned 1 base, well, 2 base, or a Hellion drop. Grand Center is on the way, just on the high grounds. For MaxPax, he knows that it is a factory expand. Overall, he thinks it's a factory expand. He doesn't know for a fact. Could be... I mean, it most likely is a factory expand. These EC2 supply depots. I think there was a player, because I always thought, like, they could actually fake the Protoss out with this. I think there was a player who did build a second supply depot to wall, but it was actually a 1-Rex expand. Someone has done that in the pro games. But anyways, he figures it's for factory expand. He gets the confirmation, and of course it's factory on the field. Now it's Hellions, so it's probably a reactor factory, right? Now the question is it going to be a drop, or is it going to be something like 2 Hellion, 2 Widowmine? The drop is by far the deadliest thing, so MaxPax has to be most wary about the drop. He's done absolutely no scouting, but he has gone into his Stargate. So I brought up the macro that he does, and I said Robo, but I should have said Phoenix. Phoenix Colossus is the macro opener that he's taken into his small book of builds. I don't know if it's that big, actually. 4 Hellions managed to avoid the Phoenix. One of them is injured from the fight earlier on with the Adept. The probes taser it! Get him! And they got him. They helped get him anyways. The Adepts came up and helped as well. Now 2 Hellions, 2-shot the probes. Far less deadly. Now it is 1 Hellion, and now it is 0. 5 probes go down. Excellent defense from MaxPax against the build that seems to always work out. So I wouldn't be surprised if Clem still wins, because it's a Hellion drop build, even though the Hellion drop itself was lackluster. Moving on, Clem has moved on to some Phoenix defense. Remember, he actually didn't know, I believe, there was Phoenix up until that moment. And now he has at least a Cyclone to help out, but the starport had to transfer its way back home, so it has not been able to add a Viking. Maybe it doesn't need the Viking, but usually that would also be included. Just feel like MaxPax is set up in a very good position. This Phoenix harassing, looking for opportunities. The knowledge that he will not be attacked for a little while. Oh, and 5 Adepts entering into the natural. Seeing that many Marines, however, they decide not to go for it, at least not at that particular time. Medevac now joins in to help out the Marines. Adepts actually get into the main base, and I think they're going to go ahead and transfer. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeedy. It's only 4 Adepts, however, and they are not close to the SCVs. They're going to one-shot the SCV, but literally just one-shot like one at a time. That's not the most damage ever. The Phoenix at least take the opportunity to go into the natural, and that's where I think the real power is just that there was 2 places of defense, and Clem had very few units to do so, or very few mobile units, I suppose. 7 SCVs go down at the cost of 4 Adepts. Yeah, I think that's good, right? You did have to produce those Adepts, but yeah. Phoenix remain intact, untouched. Clem still working on Sim Combat Shields and +1. Robo Bay on the way for MaxPax as he heads over into Colossus after grabbing his 3rd base. The question is, will his Colossus be out for the first push? Seems like it won't be. Now with Clem timing this out almost perfectly, as Sim finishes, he runs across the map. Combat Shields will also finish roughly the same time. 15-second difference. Scan ahead, sees, oh, a supply blocked Robo! Uh-oh, this is something that MaxPax really needs. Hello? That supply block is actually killer. It is literally going to kill Clem as the Immortal Barrier got popped by the Cyclone lock-on. The 3rd Nexus is gone. No chance of saving that. What a disastrous time to get supply blocked. Gets extra supply blocked as well with the loss of all the pylons of the 3rd base. MaxPax was, I think, looking at that and knew what was happening, so he's quick to building more than enough pylons, but that sucked. It could be that without the supply block, we still have the Nexus canceled, though, to be honest. The Colossus would still be a very rough timing, and the Bio could have still gunned down the Nexus and escaped, I think. So maybe it's kind of the same result, but yeah, nonetheless, not a good thing to be supply blocked like that. MaxPax knows that he's in trouble, decides to take a hidden 3rd base. I mean, MaxPax, he's an odd player because he chooses to do odd builds, but then he sticks to them. What mine does pop off. So, you know he's going to do something that other Protoss don't necessarily do build order-wise. As consistently, as well, as often, whatever. But you don't expect him to play straight up odd, okay? There's odd as in, like, this guy does something odd all the time. It's the same odd thing all the time. And then there's the people who are just like, lol, so random, everything is weird, everything is random. And those are the players that would get a gold-based Nexus after their 3rd is killed. Estrella, perhaps, is a little more like that Protoss. MaxPax actually would say, you know, you don't expect it. And certainly, this is not like a build order. This is not something that you can read into. Like, Hero likes to do his proxy Stargate with a gold-based Nexus into a 2nd gold-based Nexus, and Classic does that as well. You could kind of expect it when you face those two. MaxPax, actually, I really think that Clem's not going to find this for a long period of time. He has 0 scouting on the other side of the map in general to see that there is not a 3rd base being planted on the usual location. MaxPax has lost a lot of Phoenix in the last 45 seconds, 4 of them in the last minute, I think. Pretty much all at once. But he still has 7 of them. He's got 2 Colossus, his 3rd about to pop. No charge, though. Just gonna make sure those Colossus stay behind. And the lack of charge is going to take away the chance of going for force fields, I think, right there. Force fields and the Zealots and the Colossus all combined together. That does not look like a very complete Terran army, to be honest with you. There we go! So many more Marauders are joining in. There it is! That's like 6 more Marauders. Now that looks chonky. Shield Bounty Overcharge is activated. Clem finally getting a chance to actually form up a concave. His Vikings not actually killing anything yet. No, they one-shot the Phoenix. And yeah, I got another one too. It's a lot of pressure from MaxPax. If he had charged 20 seconds sooner, I think there was actually an opportunity to take the fight out here, but now it's looking quite bad for him. The Vikings continue to chip away at his air army and possibly at his Colossus. He cannot break out. A scan from Clem goes down on the gold base, but it's the wrong gold base. Zealot's also into the natural, though it is only one, not a big deal. The attempted breakout from MaxPax happens, but it looks like it's a disaster. That is too wide of a concave. War Prism also comes back to its death. Hello? Okay, maybe not. Clem actually finds the third base. The Marine was sent over to the right side. Now he's going to take what he can grab easily. MaxPax will rush over to defend, but the Vikings are waiting for that. They're going to grab the Colossus health. They're going to kill all the Phoenix, I believe. And then they will kill the Colossus. MaxPax truly desperate right now. Going to try and take the engagements. Is he really the one that should be taking this, though? I'm not so sure. But Clem not in a concave this time around. Does need to be a bit careful about 4 Colossus splash. That's a lot of splash right there. Probes mining at a very awkward angle aren't actually even contributing to the economy all that much, as MaxPax, again, so desperate, is really hoping for a good fight into an immediate counterattack. But Clem's not giving him a great fight. He's microing his Vikings, taking on the Colossus, Marauders on the front lines, tanking the laser beams, and Clem is going to take this engagement no problemo. GG. Clem now up 2-1. In the top left of Babylon for game 4, it is Clem. In the top right, we have MaxPax. Bottom right, we have MaxPax. I love watching the vision of them. The first 10 seconds of the game, just running around the map, setting up their camera location hotkeys. So MaxPax not been having a good time the last 2 games. I think the second game was closer, even though the time of disconnect there was a big supply gap. This is something that MaxPax deals with every day. And while the storm was a little bit late, that is also something that MaxPax has managed to make do with. The third game, rather, is actually just pretty easily summed up, right? Like, well, not easily summed up, I guess, because initially it did look good for MaxPax. I made the joke, actually, right, that Clem did a Hellion drop that wasn't successful, but I wouldn't be surprised if he still won, because for some reason, Hellion drop builds, games, they just seem to still end up favorable for the Terran player. Something magical about it. So when did it exactly go wrong? The Colossus transition. MaxPax might have already been a little bit late to it in general, but then add on the supply block, and that was the worst case scenario. And then he might have still had a chance if he had charged 20 seconds faster when Clem had yet to reinforce with his Marauders. I don't know why they didn't reinforce, by the way. I don't know what they were doing, but then he might have actually been able to force field, and with Chargelots and Colossus on a mostly Marine army, I think he would have cleared it out. Started the process of a comeback. But he didn't. And things are getting even worse. MaxPax lost his first probe. That's terrible. For Clem, that's amazing. And not just because it's the feeling of superiority, you know? How many of us have been like, oh, wait, cool, man, the probe's so cool, it's harassing me, that's really awesome, that's so cool. And then when it dies, you're like, ah! You suck, I knew it. Yeah, there's that. But there is also the fact that the probe is no longer around to get a second scouts. So it would have been pushed away with the Marine, of course, eventually. But, I mean, if it gets a little bit longer on a scout and tell a couple of more things before it actually dies, maybe, like, for instance, is it going to be a Marine before it runs away? Didn't know if it was going to be a Marine or a Reaper. Doesn't impact you a tremendous amount, but if you had left, like, a unit at home just, like, 2 seconds longer, that... Oh, it was a Reaper. Oh. I'm blind, I'm sorry. I'm gonna blame the sickness on these mistakes. These mistakes on the sickness. There you go. Anyways, so yeah, the Reaper did come out, and that's something that the probe would not be able to see. My point generally was that it's not the biggest of deals, but the probe loss, not supposed to happen at that time, and the additional problem the actual problem, not the little tiny probe problem, is that MaxPax does not know it's a 3 racks on the way. Now, a 3 racks is a bit interesting versus a Twilight Council 4 gate, but I won't get into that because it's not Twilight Council, it's Stargates. And what we know is that a 3 racks is very difficult for Phoenix players to deal with. It's not impossible, but one of the first things you have to do as the Phoenix player is scout it. And basically the problem there is that you have air units that can freely fly around the map, great, but they're also potentially going to be used for defense. So, you know, very likely the Protoss player will keep the Phoenix at home, waiting for the potential of a drop, then say, okay, the drop's not coming, let's go across the map, and then they'll scout it, and that might be too late. MaxPax just waited till he had a second Phoenix. This is still long before a Widowmine drop would have appeared, but it seems like he did figure he was safe to run across the map and get that scouting, as well as any harassment that he can find, and it is very important that he does that. He doesn't just leave his Phoenix at home, which Protoss players really shouldn't be doing unless they are truly fearful of something big coming across, like a Hellion drop or something. The MaxPax sees it to 3 racks. Can he actually defend? He's got a shield battery up, trying to protect as much of the third base as, you know, as well as the natural. If it can help a little bit with units over here, that's great. The third base can't actually be gotten. Otherwise, it will be immediately canceled, so hardly worth it. Phoenix are killing a couple of SCVs, building buildings, which is always annoying. Clem knows he's been scouted. He knows that it won't be doing a whole lot of damage, but that nonetheless, it is a build that MaxPax has to consider. Has to put a lot of weight into his consideration of the build. So, for instance, he doesn't get a third base the time that he usually would. So, in that way, the 3 racks kind of does its thing. The Phoenix are still doing things on this side of the map. A couple more Marines went down. No Phoenix dead yet. Looks like MaxPax lost the pylon here at the third base and got supply blocked again. Not as much of a problem this time around, since he has had a Phoenix and a Colossus building. It was his probes, I think, got supply blocks. Sandthermal Lance starts up. Second Colossus will be available. That's the first one. I don't know why I said second. First one will be available, and perhaps then MaxPax can get that third base. Perhaps. The first Colossus is out. But so are Clem's Medivacs. They got another 30 seconds. And the Phoenix are trucking around for any damage whatsoever. A couple more SCVs. In total, Phoenix killing 7 SCVs, I believe. A couple of Marines as well. Not too shabby. MaxPax does go towards the third base with his relatively tiny army. But Clem had only left his Marine army. He wasn't rallying forward, right? So that was pretty safe of MaxPax to do. Takes it to the left instead of the right this time. Clem is about ready to go with his second attack. He's got Medivacs, he's got Marauders, he's got +1 attack. And MaxPax is going to try and chip away at whatever he can. Ooh, barely not getting that Medivac, yet losing the Phoenix. Very unfortunate there. And we are going to get an SCV to repair that, I believe. Yep, absolutely. Clem should still be feeling pretty good about this game. And MaxPax is about to have his third Colossus, actually. Certainly have before the army comes across the map. Still no upgrades. You know, you can only get so many things off of 2 bases, right? Now the third base is finally up and running. You can afford your Twilight Council upgrade and your Forge upgrade, and then once that's completely saturated and maybe you've defended 1 or 2 pushes, then maybe you can go for a second Forge as well. A couple of Marauders unable to defend themselves, so one is grabbed and killed. However, the Marines were looking for such an opportunity. They grab 1 Phoenix and almost get the second. It's just a game of tracking the Phoenix at this point. Clem does not want to push out. He goes directly into the Vikings, so he's not trying to do any move-outs and pressure with a large ground army and just kind of sack the Medivacs potentially. But, you know, he'll have 6 Medivacs if he didn't go into these Vikings, right? Or even 8 Medivacs, actually. He could be trying to use 8 Medivacs and whatever bio he has to just get good concaves and take engagements, but he's not doing that. And he could also try and play it very risky and go for drops, but we know that Phoenix are literally there to stop those drops. No, he goes directly into the one-punch army. And this is actually a very much a decision, not just for everything I just mentioned, but also because it is usually said that the 4 Medivac counts is the best counts to then move on to the Vikings. Only 2 Medivacs is not a lot of healing. We'll see if it works out. Clem was able to bully MaxPax's composition a little bit more than expected in the last game. Actually, I feel like picking up in the medevac made that worse. This unit's probably just gonna run away. Anyways, Disruptor is on the field, but it is only the one. Robo is gonna get taken down, and that is the only Robo in play right now. MaxPax very hesitant to respond to this. As soon as he moves his Colossus forward, the Vikings will go after them, and that's exactly what happens. 4 Phoenix trying to hold on. Actually do tank the shots. And the Marines are all that was left on that side of the concave. Here come the Marauders, but it is a bit weird. The Colossus are still in effect, and MaxPax is starting to... Well, no, never mind, actually. He's starting to lose his Colossus, what he is. I thought maybe he was going to actually hit those Marines, but they're still alive. They are severely injured, but they are alive. Clem trying to micro in 3 different locations, but with one battle is a very weird thing to say. But it looks like the split was really not worth it, and Clem just taps out. He was 2 base all in there. And that was one of the weirder engagements we'll see in StarCraft. Thank you, Cian Wolf, for the 22 months. Doing some business stuff, sorry. But that was an interesting decision there from Clem. Clem was on 3 bases in the last game. Game 3. And he was able to bully with his Vikings like he did. In Game 4, it was more of a dedicated 2-base attack, wasn't it? One that sacrificed medevac healing for faster, higher Viking counts. And I think it's a generally good idea. I actually think that's generally a good idea. I could see that being very effective. I think the way that the match was, the engagement was taken was actually the weirdest, worst thing about it. Clem saw an opportunity to hit the natural where there was an important tech building, the Robo, and that is important. That's usually a good grab. But by attacking the Robo, he kind of cut his army off from retreating. And then just said, well, I guess it can't retreat back to the army. So I'm just going to leave it in the natural. And then that was all of his Marauders, or initially all of his Marauders, some reinforced later. And so all of his tank for his Marines weren't a part of the fight. And his Marines didn't have a tank in the form of a Marauder, so they couldn't fight. So they just kept on disengaging. And then his reinforcements came in by their lonesome. No medevacs to support, and not a lot of them, right? So it just felt like if he had been able to take a fight with everything combined together, it would have looked pretty good. But everything disconnected as it was made the fight a bit difficult to tell, a bit difficult to call, but then just obviously ended in MaxPax's favor. It just meant that everything that the Terran had was not in the exact right place or really doing the most amount of damage. It just wasn't cohesive. That is the word there. It wasn't cohesive. The bottom left, it is MaxPax, top right, Clem. Clem went for a bit of a different response rather than just trying to go for a macro game, right? Which is usually his response. Goes for a 2-base all-in, I guess. Didn't work out, it happens. For MaxPax, he gets back on his feet. Gets into game number 5, and I don't know what he plans on doing now. The Ancient Cistern. Not sure. The Clem is sending an SCV out to Engineering Bay Block, I believe. Or, yeah. Yeah, you know what? Okay. Trying to get the right timing. And there you go. So MaxPax is going to scout this with the second probe here. He can go ahead and grab a Zealot, should he so desire. Should he so desire. He doesn't desire to do so. He's actually going to grab his 3rd Nexus. His 3rd place natural Nexus. That doesn't make any sense either. He grabs his Nexus at his 3rd. Alright, Neighbor Jorans, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. He's trying to make a new way of saying something, because that's what casting is just trying to find so many different ways of saying the same things to not be monotonous. And sometimes the simplest way really is the best. He takes his 2nd Nexus at his 3rd. There you go. And that is a fair response to the engineer bay block. That's fine. It does mean you are rallying probes across a long distance, so that lost mining time. Very much like a Zerg dealing with a Protoss pylon block. It also means that your locations, your bases, do not have a shared defense. So that's the really dangerous part. The first, and I think still one of the best responses to this situation for the Protoss player, is to grab a Stargate. It was 4 or 5 years ago, at this point probably, which we saw the NG block really come back into play. And Protoss players across the world were just like, I have no idea what to do against this. This is stupid. I hate it. And then I think it was actually Parting. So yeah, again, years ago. Parting, who started to respond and make it look like it was A-okay, no problem. Stargates and a shield battery in both bases, and then he would defend what was usually a Hellion follow-up. That's exactly what Clem's doing. So we're really going back to a very classic 5-year-old type of PvT. Maybe 5 years is too much, but the time is relative. We're going back to a classic TvP. But going along with what I was saying, I do believe the Protoss players have kind of figured out how to defend against this. This should not be as punishing as it once was when the NG block first started to come up again. 4 Hellions do still one-shot probes, so these probes were in danger, but now we're down to 2 Hellions, and that's going to be the damage done. 3 probes, not a whole lot. Clem, probably anticipating the Stargate follow-up, didn't actually scout it, yet still went directly into a Cyclone afterwards. Might have expected the Stargate, but also it's just a very safe overall defensive unit. As he does also go into a 3-1 setup, so delaying his starport, which would be of no use against the Phoenix play anyways for a while. He could again produce a defensive Viking, but a Cyclone and properly placed Marines would probably do the trick as well. Phoenix just doing their job. 3 probes killed, 2 Hellions and a Marine. The Hellion survives. Wait. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, didn't he build 4? He definitely built 4. And it's weird then that looked like it was only 3. Am I crazy? He had 4 here, but then it looked like there was 3 here, and then 2 of them died, and then 2 of them... Well, counting is not my strong suit, apparently. We finally had the completed Terran production lineup. We got 3 racks, a factory, and a starport. MaxPax looking to move on to his 3rd base at his natural, of course. Seems like he's done a decent job defending the early stages. The awkwardness that is the NG Bay block. Good for him. And now MaxPax going into old classic Phoenix Colossus. Arnie Majorns, thank you for the gifted subs as well as the 22 months. And Scout C Justice, thank you very much for an additional gifted sub. It's time for the first push out. It's time to see what Clem can do. Disrupt MaxPax. MaxPax is tracking the army, though, and that's the job of the Phoenix. Track without dying. Colossus number 1 will be out before the engagement happens. And with a couple of force fields, it should be out before the... Well, okay, if it goes that way, never mind. I was gonna say, you could always force field, buy more time. And... Yeah, Clem's, like, trying to bait it out. I guess if he baited out the force field here, he might just run over here and start engage. Because there'd be 1 less Guardian shield. Doesn't really work out that way, and MaxPax seems okay on his 3-base defense. Not a lot of room for Clem to work with. If he tried to go for drops at this point, the Phoenix are very likely to catch him. At the very least, I would say they're likely to punish him. And that's really the kicker of the Phoenix. They can't be in all places at once, but if you dedicate to a drop and then you are forced to escape at some point, which you usually are, Phoenix can track you down. MaxPax even looking for an engagement. Now he's got 2 Colossus. He thinks he's big and bad. He's also killed 1 medevac and then the other, leaving this army medevac-less. So I can see why he's so eager to take an engagement. Another attack on the right side manages to avoid all of the scouting units and the depth to the right. It's a probe in the middle. MaxPax does wisely pull back to defend his core structures, right? No real reason to continue chasing after this army. Just begging for a backstab. And now the third Colossus, and probably final one, is going to be out with Extended Thermal Lance. Little supply block thanks to the scouting pylon going down. And once again, MaxPax, the worst thing about this build is that you do not have any upgrades. So +1 attack only just now starting. But I don't think it'll be too bad. Clem is getting a 3rd CC on location, but it's stalled out. I guess the Phoenix or something went over there, and or maybe it was the Adepts, actually. Stalled out the 3rd CC, very annoying. And MaxPax is completing his Protoss setup. It actually... starting to feel like MaxPax is the one who's going to take this best of 5. Ugh. It feels like Clem doesn't find the same strengths in his play when he faces someone who does have great Phoenix control. And I don't just mean the micro of the Phoenix, but I mean the usage of the Phoenix. They're very good at knowing when to defend, when to harass, when to scout, and they're always active. So, Clem just can't seem to break it. A couple of Widow Mines looking to delay a 4th base. Do delay it, but not by very much. There's actually a couple of probes going down somewhere. Oh, I guess it was 2 for this, plus the 1 for that. Okay. It's the best option when you don't have that detection out yet. And, okay. Usually, you're doing it because the observer is on the way. But MaxPax is literally not bothering to get an observer. It seems like a bold decision to me. This is interesting. So he sees that this army came back into the 4th base, sorry, and he's gonna try and get a wraparound on it, which works. And this could even lead into a counterattack, is something I was wondering might happen. Nah, it's not gonna happen. The Phoenix just take what they can get. They are unfortunately going to lose one of their members. The Vikings came in. MaxPax couldn't retreat fast enough, but now MaxPax can hopefully get his 4th base up. Seriously, observer, my goodness. And he can go for the counterattack, which is what I thought he might do after he caught the army like he did. He does still have the Colossus to use that range. Only a handful of Vikings to support, but they also have the Phoenix to deal with, so I think this might be a good fight for MaxPax to take, and he thinks so too. Running on in here, not a lot of medevacs to heal, once again being a bit of a problem, but wouldn't mind splash off. The concave gets bigger for Clem, and MaxPax is not looking to dive too deep. Perhaps he could continue to push, but he wants to be careful about it. 4th CC is going to have to be canceled. As Zealots reinforce, no Warp Prism, and that scan reveals no Warp Prism, so Clem knows that if he can just hold, just buy a little bit more time, a couple more reinforcements, he might just be good to go, but he is not getting a lot of time to do so, as MaxPax continues to stomp forward his laser giraffes. The army of the Terran is looking awfully weak, and a couple more medevacs did show up to help out. Some healing is being given, but not nearly enough, as the SCVs have to be pulled. 36 of them have gone down, and that is that. MaxPax does indeed take this best of 5. Another European Open Cup under his belts. Well played. Under his belts?